Hi, welcome to R Podqast, the only podcast rated R for Robin. Today we are doing our first guest podcast with Nick Demeria of FreeFAM. Say hi. What's up?
What's up, guys? Appreciate you having me on, man.
Not a huge audience. I'm gonna let you know right now. How's it going, dude? So you're still in the suburb. You're still in Glendale Heights, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm in Lombard now, but yeah, right next door.
Lombard's definitely like a step up from G Heights.
Yeah, it's cool. We got a little house out here in front of the Lombard Lagoon, so it's nice. You need to go a little fishing and stuff.
Lagoon. I know there's like a little pond there. It's like by like a middle school.
Yeah, we're actually right by Safari Land. If you know,
shit.
Off North Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm literally like a block away, but I'm actually moving to Naperville.
Is that by where? Is that by Roosevelt? The Safari?
I mean, kind of, but I'm literally right off North
Gotcha.
Ave.
Moving to Naperville, why?
Moving in with my wife.
Ooh.
We're getting a new spot. It was getting difficult with the situation that we had, like with my injury and stuff, just for us to pay the bills. It was just getting difficult, so we both kind of moved back in with our parents, kind of getting our stuff together. I got a full-time job. She's working, so now we're saving up enough money that we can move into our own place and actually, pay for it completely ourselves. So now we're getting a new spot. And it's a cool spot. Like there's a fitness center, a sauna, pool. It's a nice, apartment. I'm happy. I'm excited for that.
Damn. So you got a full-time job now. You're like working at Walmart now, but you did a lot. So I imagine you're still doing music. You dropped a song beginning of March.
Yeah, I'm still doing music as much as I can. To be honest, I mean, at this point, like I do it just to kind of keep myself sane. I do it because I love it, but I mean, I used to do it dedicatedly, like this is what I want to do with my life. So I was, investing in marketing. I was, going and networking at events. I was constantly just thinking about music. But at this point, I still do, but I kind of do it more so for just the love and the sanity. It keeps me sane. And honestly, I feel like I make better music that way.
So the last one you put out was Long Way Home. And you got like a new thing dropping beginning of April, right? I saw the artwork.
Yeah,
I saw the artwork for it. Sick.
I do.
Looks real good.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah. There's I've just been keeping myself busy, man. Like I'm sitting on like 30 songs right now, to be honest. Hey, just double checking too. There's no like echo or any lag in the audio, right? Because I'm actually I have your audio playing off my laptop.
I think it sounds perfectly fine, dude.
Through the mic. All right.
No, so like that microphone. Yeah. Again, I've been watching way too many fucking videos about like just streaming and shit, and just like everybody's trying to learn about that stuff. That thing's got like its own I think it's got its own like compressor and its own noise canceling, or not noise canceling, but like a noise gate, so like little sounds on the outside don't I have to turn on filters and shit for that.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way. That's cool. All right, yeah, no, I'm excited to hear it at the end too. And I mean, I know a little bit about like audio, and like I took some audio production classes at COD, but for the most part, like I'm more of an artist, I guess you could say. My brother does more of the technical side.
He's Cheech Beats, right? Who's Pluto? Yeah. So Pluto's the one who produced the most recent one.
Yeah, honestly, it's just a dude on the internet.
Going like Fiverr?
I just found the beat, I liked it, and I for the most part, like when I find a song that I actually really like, I purchase the beat. Like I'll lease it, or I'll either lease it or I'll buy the exclusive rights. But like I don't know if you saw the music video that I did to the song Bad. Yeah, that one too. I leased the beat for that one, and I try to go about it the right way. And I used to be against using like online beats and YouTube beats because I was like, oh, everything's got to be original, like in house. And then I got to this point where I was like, man, people really don't care. People just want, as long as it sounds good. I'm not the type of person where it needs. Obviously, if you produce it, mix it, master it all yourself, obviously you're more talented and you're on another level. But I don't think that's required. I mean, a lot of people will hate on Drake because he doesn't write his own music. I'm like, man, what's the final product sound like? If it sounds good, I don't really.
I mean, to them also, it's like more of, does it sell? I mean, to be fair, like
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like Britney's like "Hit Me Baby One More Time" was a song that was written for the Backstreet, yeah, for the Backstreet Boys. Uh, yeah,
No
and
way.
she picked it up, and it's now like one of the songs of our childhoods.
Yeah, right? No, exactly. That was like the start of that whole, well, I don't know if the start, but that whole um like she was one of those first like pop stars that really like went from childhood pop star, childhood like famous to just
No, I'd say that
a
that was
mega pop star, you know,
the
like that
original was
Miley
Michael
Cyrus
Jordan or
route.
Michael Jackson. Excuse me.
Oh, true, true, yeah. Cause yeah, but man, Michael Jackson's
Yeah.
on a whole nother level, man. Cause I mean, I know he's got his accusations and stuff, but I mean, when it comes down to
Oh
just
yeah,
sheer
unbelievable.
talent, the dude is phenomenal. Like his presence. You were Michael Jackson in that
Yeah,
little eighth
boy.
grade dance that you did.
I've
I
seen a
remember
video
that.
of it.
Just
I've
random
seen a
song that
video of
popped in
it.
my
It
head.
still looks great. Yeah.
Really? That's awesome. Yeah, man. I had Miss Bowler on my Facebook, and you know me, sometimes I get wild on social media. I'll just start
Yeah,
like
she
posting stuff,
retired
and
recently.
she was like
She
posting.
retired recently.
Say what? I know, I heard about that. Yeah, but I mean, I didn't want to like get too argumentative with her
Hmm.
because I love Miss Bowler, you know. So I just kind of like stopped her ability to see my my posts because she was always like, I would post stuff like it was like during the beginning of the pandemic, and she was posting like it was something like Dollar General was not going to force masks, and I was like, I support companies that support freedom, and she's like, she said, "What idiots?" And I was just like, "All right, Miss
Ooh.
Bowler, I'm not about to get into this with you. I love you, Miss Bowler. I don't want to argue."
Yeah, she was a really good teacher.
She was, bro. Honestly, for me, I think she taught me the like how valuable
Hmm.
writing skills are and how valuable
Oh yeah, she went
like
hard on that shit.
vocabulary is,
I
and
definitely think
yeah,
I
just how to
definitely had like
write
a
in
leg
front of
up
people.
on my classmates in like high school because of the way she like just like varying like sentence how they start changing like moving around
Hmm.
stuff and like how to form like a proper like five paragraph argument. Eventually, you have to grow into something like way
Yeah.
bigger, but like the revision process is just so core to everything.
Yeah, and if you remember how like Mrs. Kelly wouldn't let us
Yeah.
use the word got, like simple things like that where you
Hmm.
have to be more descriptive, like little things. I still use
Yeah.
that to this day. Like I don't use that word. I'll try. Well, I mean, obviously I still do a little bit, but you know what I'm saying? Like if I'm writing, I'll specifically go through, I'll use a thesaurus and try to use instead of saying that I used to always make fun of Trump
Yo,
for when he
I
would
got
say
the
like I
best
have the best
words.
words. I have the best words. And I'm like, you could say the word vocabulary and sound so much more like you don't you mean you have the best vocabulary? Like
If
that
only
would
that
be
was in
the
his
best
vocabulary.
word for exactly, right? Like that was yeah, that was a funny
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, man, I was kind of getting the rap of being a Trump supporter for a while when I was bashing Biden. And it's just unfortunate that everybody
You're on
looks at
this
it
side or
so
you're on the
like,
other
you
side.
know, if you bash one exactly, they've kind of politicized literally everything. And someone like me who's been pretty passionate about health and nutrition and the importance of like diet and
Hmm.
exercise and lifestyle choices, they've even like politicized health, which at this point is also kind of unfortunate because if you look at like natural medicine or supplementation or you know you believe in the power of like your immune system, you're kind of painted out as this like right-wing conspiracy
To be
theorist
fair though,
just
I think
because
the left also gets a lot of that like the bullshit medicine with like, oh, we're all natural, we're all about like this hippie yoga shit, you know. It's interesting that
yeah they do
it's on
too.
both
That's
sides
interesting.
there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like there's a lot more nuance to most of these topics, and that's where like for me I don't really identify as left or right. Like I think that you can do a lot of I don't think it's just as like black and white as
Hmm.
like some people make it seem, you know. I think that there definitely needs to be more um like for some reason I feel like the federal government is just way too powerful. Like we just have like way too big of a federal government, but at the same time corporations do
Hmm.
need some sort of regulation. So like we need
Yeah,
a balance of
there's a great quote by
somehow like
Jon
managing not
Stewart
having
of the Daily Show. I don't want bigger government, I want better government. Uh, and just like the
yeah.
fact
Yeah.
the issue isn't that we have like a federal government who like collects taxes from our the problem is that the federal government is putting like 80% of those taxes towards like the military towards like the fucking Pentagon that like
exactly.
fails every single audit it has.
Yeah, they're like misplacing trillions of dollars, and then they're over here like, using money, and they're using most of it to bomb third world countries, and then meanwhile we all get a measly $1,400.
I still don't know whether or not I can like claim any of that shit. I've been filing my taxes, but like abroad, it's just been like an unbelievable mess trying to collect any of that.
I was wondering. Yeah, I was gonna ask you how that worked. I mean, my brother, because he works like he does filming and stuff, so he doesn't like he works with a lot of cash. So I mean, filing his taxes is a little bit different of a process. So he's been having a hard time getting his stimulus packages too. My wife gets all my stimulus packages, and I don't live with her, so I like have to trust her. I'm like, hey, we got that stimulus, right?
So are
like,
you guys getting it
money.
like so you both would get the 1,400 stimulus?
Yeah, we each got one. And dude, my mom, like, she gets one for, well, now since we're all older, but she got one for my brother.
For
and I think some people get even more money for children under six.
that was an
My
added
cousin said,
provision, I think, in the most recent stimulus bill. Which, like, man,
dude,
like especially now, Biden is also still like fucking it. Like, the $2,000 stimulus check that should have been a slam dunk. Fucking erasing student debt. That was a slam dunk. He could just write it off, and he just chooses not to.
Yeah, that's how I felt like even the $15 minimum wage.
Oh, he's backpedaling on so much of that too.
There's so many things where, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's. I don't want to sound arrogant, but I feel like I saw that coming. Like, I mean, he's just such a corporate Democrat. Like, I mean, it's not, dude. Honestly, for me, the candidate I really like, and I mean, everyone's got their blind spots. There's no one that you're gonna completely resonate every single thing that they say, but I really like Ron Paul and Rand Paul. I think they both ask good questions, and I loved Bernie, man. Like when he was running, I really liked his platform, but when they screwed him out of those primaries in 2016, and he was
and 2020.
Yeah, like I was. When he started endorsing Hillary after that, I pretty much lost respect for him.
Again, the alternative was let Trump win, and like you kind of had to do it. The annoying thing to me, with like people who hated on Bernie after like endorsing Hillary Clinton, is like everybody like then afterwards, after she still lost, they still blamed him, despite the fact that I think he did like he did like 40, 50 rallies for her. Whereas, like, in the, what was it? I think in 2020, like, more people, no, not the most recent election, more people who voted for, shit. I can't remember the statistic. It's like like most of her supporters went over to Trump, or more of them went over to Trump than stuck with Bernie. I wish I could remember.
Dude,
that.
Honestly, I voted third party. I wish he would have like just really addressed the fact that they rigged that primary.
Yeah,
and that the whole
he's not willing to call.
Like,
he's not willing to call people out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even now he kind of does it. Like he presented a bill at the beginning of the pandemic that was, I think it's stated that if they took 10% of the military budget and instead of printing new money and creating a new stimulus package and putting us more in debt, you use 10% of the military budget and give that to the American people. And it was shot down. Like everybody voted against it. Democrats and Republicans, both of them voted against it. And I think that Bernie, in a sense, is like I think he was almost allowed to do that because they knew it wasn't going to pass. And part of me feels like he's just the like the bait that like gets like progressives and like well-intentioned progressives into the Democratic Party, and then we get into this loop, this cycle of like Obama.
I don't know if that is like
where
So in that, I there are a lot more new like progressive groups that are fighting to actually like to caucus and challenge a lot of incumbent Democrats and Republicans. I think he's had a significantly like powerful influence on that.
He totally has, and that's where I give him credit because his campaign really did open a lot of people up to the.
There's an alternative to this fucked up system.
Oligarchs. Yes, and there are oligarchs pulling the strings. Like there's like a ruling class of people that are pulling the strings, and the top 1% is making more wealth.
There's nobody can credit more
like
with like actually pointing the finger at the broken like finance system and just how elections are all dictated by the donors.
100%. Yeah, that's why I don't like discredit, and that's where I think there's a lot of like it's not so black and white the way like people would just look at it. Oh, like Bernie's just a socialist, or like oh, you know, like Trump's just a fascist, or like this, like where I'm like I
Trump
think
is
it's a
also
lot
stupid.
deeper. Like I mean, Trump and Biden.
He's also stupid.
I'll say what? Yeah, like I think there's just a lot more. Like there were things that Trump did that I obviously disagreed with, and there were some things that I didn't completely hate, but there were also some things like with Biden, like there are some of his immigration policies that I am not against because I have a lot of immigrants in my family, but also that doesn't like get rid of the fact that he's still continuing the military industrial complex agenda. He's still dropping bombs
Still
on
open
people.
up more
He's
camps,
still,
I believe.
you know, I mean, he's doing, yeah, exactly. Like he's opening those FEMA camps because there's just so many like immigrant children and stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, I think most people really see through it. I mean, I think I read somewhere that like almost 50%
Already
of the
sick of
country is like
I
independent.
mean, it's definitely gotten more to that
like
just because like just in these last 4 years, I guess the walls have been broken about like what separates a Democrat and Republican because they're essentially kind of like they're all paid for by the same people. The difference being though that like the Republicans are willing to do everything they can to hold power and use that power, whereas Democrats are only willing to step on a person's toes if it's politically convenient.
Yeah, and that's where like I've heard like the reason that, and obviously like I'm not on either side, but I've heard like some people argue like the reason that Democrats are more dangerous than Republicans is because we all know Republicans are warmongering corporatists and they drop bombs and they don't give a shit. But the Democrats kind of pretend that they're not, and they virtue signal a lot, so they tend to be a little more dangerous because they're lying to you. Like they'll piss on you and tell you it's raining. Trump's just gonna piss on you and tell you it's piss. Like you're just like sorry. You should
I had this thought. I talked to my brother.
On.
Like he's very much in like this same like this weird headspace. Like maybe it's better that Hillary lost. That way, like it kind of like pulls the curtain back. The problem is we also found out that like most of the American people are still willing to tolerate and like go along with the fucked up shit, seeing how fucked up the shit is.
I agree 100%. Yeah, like I think Trump did like he just kind of showed everybody like just how bad it was. And what's funny is too like going back to both parties being funded by the same organizations. That was like a lot of the Trump supporters rhetoric was like, oh, he's not funded by the same people that funded Obama's campaign. He's not funded by the elites. And I'm like, yeah, that's because he is one of them, dude. Like, you don't need to be funded by them.
No, he's less an elite and still more of he's just like he's more of a media anomaly. He was like a millionaire, but he wasn't like anywhere near as rich as he was. He was in the world's most successful car salesman, really.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. And like
he wanted to sell you a lemon, but it turned out to be a bag of Cheetos.
That's the whole thing too. And then right. And then everybody talking about even the like the Epstein stuff and like, oh, he's taken out the child trafficking, and I'm like, dude, he was seen with Epstein on so many occasions. Like I don't buy into that at all. Like I don't think any of them are to be trusted. That's just me. Like
Where do you land?
I don't know.
Where do you land on whether or not billionaires should exist?
I don't know, man. That's definitely a complex question because, like, I mean, I definitely don't think taxing them is the move because I just think the government's just going to take it and bomb the shit out of Syria with it. But I don't think Jeff Bezos should be making as much money as he's making. Like, it's just, like you see these people making so much money and then people are going hungry, and it's like something does need to be done. Like, that's not okay. But I also don't think that taxing them is going to work. Like, I don't really know what the answer is, to be honest.
Yeah, I saw somebody do like some calculation. If like since the founding of America, if you were one of the first settlers in the U.S., if you saved $5,000 every single day, and also including inflation, all the way up until now, you would still not be a billionaire. Yeah, and if you went back to like
That's crazy,
the building
man.
of like the pyramids in like 2000 something BC, if you save $10,000 every single day from that point up until now, you would still not have more than the average of the top five most wealthy people in the States.
That's insane. And that also reminds me of so I read somewhere, I don't remember the exact number, but Jeff Bezos makes some ridiculous amount of money, like millions of dollars per hour. You know, he makes like $9 million per hour or something. I could get the number a little wrong, but basically they were saying that as someone who works at Amazon making $15 an hour would have to work full time, 7 days a week for like 69 years to make what he makes in 1 hour. In an hour, man. Like, that's insane. And this man's making that, you know, like, so I mean, I don't think that is right. And then that's also the issue kind of that I have with the lockdowns, is just because I think that it's perpetuated that wealth inequality, like that just Walmart and Amazon are just gobbling up the entire market. Meanwhile, mom and pop shops are, you know, where in a lot of other countries in Europe, they're paying people's like people that are out of work, they're
salaries.
literally paying their salaries. Yeah, like in America, like we're not doing any of that. Like our government
Because
really does
we
not
love
care,
our
and
rugged
that's just
individualism.
unfortunate.
We love giving
Yeah,
out bootstraps,
and
but
it's
also
all
charging
like,
you for those fucking bootstraps.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's where, for me, like where I stand is like we don't necessarily need more stimulus packages. I personally believe, might be a controversial thought, but I personally believe we could open up the entire country, and I don't think everybody would die. I don't think there'd be mass amounts of you know, people dying. I think that so I have an uncle that has a very compromised immune system. He's been very sick for a long time. And every year, every flu season, we always essentially quarantine him. We never called it quarantining him, but when we would get sick, we would never go see him. Like, that was just how it was. And I feel like the logic of like quarantining sick people and making it so they are protected, and then allowing, you know, like the young individuals, and there's always going to be anomalies who are going to get sick, but like allowing the young people to kind of create herd immunity, kind of let the virus run its course, is you don't necessarily you get through it faster. Like, yeah, some of the experts argue we're not necessarily flattening the curve, we're like prolonging the curve.
My issue with that, like, so with just like the herd immunity strategy, like the UK did that and Sweden did that, and it was horrible. It went absolutely horribly, and I think less the issue of just like putting on masks and telling everybody to lock down. Well, I get, like, yes, that is a great way to ruin the economy. Like, the alternative of like telling select people who are getting to get tested, and if they like test positive, and then you like lock them away, or the people who have compromised immune systems, like you can force them to stop working, but that's also like still then less people are going to get tested, less people are going to be actually getting treatment when they need it. And like in the States, we already have that problem, just because like going to the hospital is fucking expensive.
Yeah. Well, have you heard about like a lot of the PCR tests not being super reliable, like the cycle thresholds like going higher and higher, which basically creates more false positives and stuff, like where they haven't like isolated the virus. So it's the nose swab test. Like, if you look up, I forgot the exact guy's name, but the guy who created the test even said that they should not really be used for definitive diagnosis. And like what they basically, like they haven't really isolated the virus. They've found like a genetic sequence. I don't know all of the the biochemistry around it, but from what I've heard is that they've actually haven't like isolated the virus. So what they're looking for is like genetic sequences that actually have shown up. Like, they've tested papayas that tested positive, they've tested goats that have tested positive and stuff, like where they're not always the most reliable. And I think that some of the but another thing I wanted to go back to is like, so I've heard a lot of people like, yes, say that compared to the surrounding areas of Europe, Sweden hasn't done like but like per capita or like per 100,000 people, I don't think their death rate is.
I mean, they also
bad.
have a way
like,
better healthcare system than we do.
Exactly, and they have a healthier population. That's where I think the argument really should be made, is that what can we do to make the health of Americans better? Like blood sugar management.
But Americans are also
levels.
super bad at that. I remember like fucking when Michelle Obama was trying to get kids to eat healthier in schools, there was a huge outcry about like, why is she telling us how to feed our children? Why are they trying to dictate our lives? And like, if we're gonna be fat, that's our own business. Like that's a huge problem in the States.
Yeah.
Apparently during the like 2020 from like March to November, not only like besides COVID deaths, there was like a 25% increase in like heart like deaths related to diabetes, to like blood pressure, heart disease, and like I get that, like, you know, a lot of that might have to do with just, while there's like we've got like bad eating habits in the States, there's also like, you know, what foods can you buy that you know are going to be safe without, if you can't like eat out regularly. You're generally going to be going for stuff that's going to be like single use. It's going to be packaged. It's going to be like loaded with fucking, you know, all the additives possible.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And there's but I just have like, for me, I feel like if everyone would listen to mask mandates and locking down the entire economy, I feel like if the CDC used the same amount of
their messaging power,
like fear mongering, that they use with the mutations of the virus and the virus in general, like if they use the same thing and said, all right, guys, the best thing that you could do instead of you know, wearing a mask would be to exercise and eat healthier foods.
You can't get people to,
you know,
if you can't get people to wear a mask, how are you going to fucking get them to exercise and stop eating shit?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, but I mean, from me, for what I see in Walmart, I see probably 98% of people wear a mask. Like I rarely.
Well, a lot of those places you're not allowed to go in
if
you're not wearing a mask, or at least here. Shit.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, some people do still come in, they take their mask off and they'll only wear it. Like, and we have so much self-checkout now at Walmart, and we're technically not allowed to say anything. But yeah, like most people I see, and I personally think that most Americans would take the mask off if they said that they could. But I mean, there's like, I mean, I've seen studies from the CDC. I don't know if I can screen share or anything like that, but I do have like studies and stuff.
Do you have it pulled up now? I'd be curious about whether or not we can do that. I'm still learning how to use my own setup.
I don't know if we can. I mean, can I go to the chat? Can I hold on?
I can link it in post.
I'm gonna link it right here. I'm gonna send it to you. The title is, it's by the CDC, and basically it's called. Here, let me send it. It's called non-pharmaceutical. Here, hold on one second. It's called non-pharmaceutical measures for pandemic influenza and non-healthcare settings, personal protective equipment. And here, let me send it to you really quick before we do that. And it's pretty much saying that it's a meta-analysis where they're looking at multiple randomized controlled trials where they've you know, had people wearing masks and people still got sick, like even wearing masks. And it is with the flu, it's with influenza-like illness, but coronaviruses are influenza-like illnesses. I just sent it to you. It's on the CDC's website. This is the CDC study. I don't know if we can screen share. Let me see if I could do that, because that would be awesome too. If I could just screen share it.
Skype.
There should be a way. I've read you can do
I'm curious,
it.
just because I'm using like an NDI plugin for OBS, and I wonder whether or not I'll be able to like just rig it so I can pull it over the screen. I'd like to be able to figure that out. We've been working on a
share screen. Here we go. Share screen. Share screen. I'm gonna try it. This is for me though. I don't know if I'm recording though. Let me see if it works. I'm trying. It kind of just like tweaked.
I can still hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can see your screen. Yeah.
You can see my screen? All right, cool. So here's the study. Non-pharmaceutical measures for pandemic influenza. So if you scroll down, it's got the methods. They talk about hand hygiene and whether that played a role. They have respiratory etiquette, whether that plays a role. and then over here in face masks. And
if if you've got a window open, I can't see that. I can see like your desktop or something. I can see like a mountain.
Oh, really? So you can't see? Oh, dang. So I don't know how to do that.
It's fine.
Dang, so you can just see my face. Just read it off really quick, basically.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna. Did I stop sharing my screen? Does it?
Yes, you did.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let me just like read basically what it says. So, I wish I could have it highlighted, basically. So, okay, the overall reduction in influenza-like illness or laboratory-confirmed influenza cases in face mask group was not significant in either study. Study designs talked about the study design, and then it said another study evaluated the face mask use as a source of control for infected persons only, and the remaining. None of the household studies reported a significant reduction in secondary laboratory confirmed influenza virus infections in the face mask group. It also says here, let me it says disposable masks. Hold on. There is limited evidence for its effectiveness in preventing influenza virus transmission, either when worn by infected persons for source control or when worn by uninfected persons to reduce exposure. Our systematic review found no significant effect of face masks on transmission of laboratory-confirmed influenza. Their loose-fitting devices are designed to be worn by medical personnel to protect accidental contamination of patient wounds, and to protect the wearer against splashes and sprays of bodily fluid, not transmission of viruses. And so like that's where it's like, and what's unfortunate is like this is a study from the CDC. These are the people we should be listening to, but it contradicts the narrative that we're seeing now, and you're censored for it. Like it's misinformation. You're conspiracy theories for even bringing this up.
Are you censored for it? Do you get like?
Well, other people are. I mean, the person that I've seen is a guy, the Last American Vagabond. He's been completely deplatformed from YouTube and Twitter.
So
for talking about this.
That's so let's start at I guess the mask thing. Like, I think we've been told for a long time also that like the masks aren't actually like successful at preventing the disease. The like larger mentality has been just like it helps you avoid touching your face after touching surfaces. And if you're like coughing or sneezing, you're far less likely to still like give it to somebody. It was very much like when it was initially implemented, I feel like they definitely should have like they should have added or changed their messaging since like the initial outbreak. But besides that, like the masks and like the idea of like staying away from people, washing your hands. Like washing your hands was probably the most effective thing that they told you. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. But most people like can't be bothered with that shit. Most people don't wash their hands after they wipe their ass in the like public bathrooms.
Yeah. Dude, I see that at Walmart all
the
time.
Walmart
dude.
is absolutely like one of the worst cases for that.
And I was like that even before the pandemic. I'm like, dude, you gonna wash your hands? Like, are you serious?
I don't fucking get people.
Like I'm more worried about like, but like for me, like at least like where I think then you get into the idea of these mask mandates essentially being unconstitutional or tyrannical is because there is also some evidence to suggest that they could have a negative impact when worn improperly. When people do touch their mask and touch their face and touch other things, like it's a source of bacterial contamination. And as you breathe out, you're essentially trapping your breath. And you when you breathe out, you're breathing out bacteria, and it gets onto the mask and it stays in your mouth. And it creates like bacteria, creates dry mouth, and it can lead to like tooth deterioration and things. It's called mask mouth. And then also like there's little like fibers that are on the masks. If you like overuse it and wear it more and more, you eventually start inhaling
like plastics and stuff.
Fiber. Yes, exactly. The nanoparticles, where then you could argue is negative for your health, and that like you're protecting yourself from a respiratory virus, but then putting yourself at risk of catching a
Again,
respiratory disease,
I
mesothelioma.
I get that the masks themselves are like a problematic. They were very much like an attempted band-aid. Uh,
Yeah.
like aside from the fact that like the Trump administration was absolutely hesitant to do anything regarding the like coronavirus for way too long. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, the CDC was very much like placed in this a position of like, how the fuck can we get Americans like, you know, won't wash their hands, won't fucking like not yell at each other, won't eat healthy Americans? How do we get them to not spread the disease while telling them that the disease exists? Because Americans like not all very clearly, but and not even like any states in particular, but there is very much this the don't you dare touch anything in my life that I don't have to give to you. And like even the
Yeah.
mask thing was the most like slight inconvenience for most people, and that was already the step too far. Like I don't know what they could have told people better from the start, especially given the initial like absolute negligence from the administration. Because that was the thing that they were doing in China. They were telling everybody lock in, put on masks, don't go to work, don't whatever, and they're
Yeah.
essentially like cleared of it. Like
Yeah, but I also heard they were welding people's doors
yeah,
shut.
no, they
Like
want they went super draconian, dude.
yeah, like that's and that's where I think when people are like commending China for their response, that gets into dangerous
Yeah,
territory
absolutely.
too, because yeah, you know, like where where for me, like
You
I just
can't.
feel like the argument should really be centered around like our health. Like the CDC just should tell the truth and say, yo, your blood sugar management is directly correlated with your outcome to the disease. I mean, they talk about
Trump wouldn't have
comorbidities.
let that go. No, there's no
Yeah.
way he would have let that messaging get out that like you're that he can't. So like Trump is focused all on himself. There's no way he would have let the CDC tell him don't eat cheeseburgers. Don't
Yeah, but I
don't.
mean, as the CDC, if you are taking an oath to do that, like you got to do what
Dude,
you got to
so
do.
many people in
Like,
the CDC, so many people in like the pandemic production or prevention team, they were fired for like not being like 100% on Trump's side, or they quit because like the things that he was doing were just absolutely negligent. Like there were
yeah,
people who were like trying to publish all of their own studies without like the government funding because like anybody who was going against like, oh, we're 100% good, COVID is we're dealing with it the best, anybody going against that messaging was actual censorship by the government. Whereas like
yeah,
when YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, when all of these private companies who are allowed to do this, and I don't feel it falls into the same grouping as like censorship, like when they're fine, when there is a national impetus to do something better, and like there's also marketing, there's a market incentive for them to not allow people to for them to not be on like the wrong side of history, because ultimately I think that like if you were spreading a lot like too much of the information of like COVID doesn't exist, you're an idiot, you're a sheep, uh you're probably gonna end up on you're gonna lose a lot of market share as soon as like it's revealed that you know that was bullshit.
yeah. And there is definitely, I think there's a lot of, I quote, conspiracies that are out there that do harm to the real conspiracies, I guess you could say. You know what I'm saying? Like where there is something like where they're like, oh, it doesn't exist. It's you reacting to 5G. Like that doesn't really help.
Yeah.
Like the fact of the matter that like your health is directly correlated with the severity of your outcome, or talking about, um, just talking about in general how I don't necessarily think the virus is fake by any means. I've known people who have been affected by it, but I think that the virus, in a sense, is being manipulated and being used by people who have agendas in order to like influence governments to like pass legislation that will ultimately help their corporations, like things like immunity passports and contact tracing, and a lot of these things that were already in the works and already technologies that have been available. They just, most Americans wouldn't agree with that, but now they're starting to like engineer that consent where people are starting to understand, oh, well, maybe we need to do that stuff. Like, oh, maybe we should be like allowing them to contact trace to prevent the next outbreak. And instead of like what we should be focusing on is how can we get Americans healthier so we
But
can
is that manipulation of the disease or just plain opportunism at the fact?
I think they're a little bit of both, maybe, but it's definitely using the opportunity. What's the saying by Rahm Emanuel, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Oh.
But here's another thing that I just shared into the chat as well. It's called The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election by Times Magazine, where basically the quote from it that I thought was really interesting is that participants want the secret history of the 2020 election, even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-unable
give me a second.
People ranging from industries.
The audio was like getting a little bit fucky. Let me close a tab. I fucking closed Firefox. Irresponsible of me.
Yeah, no worries.
Hey, sorry, go on.
No worries. All right, so basically the quote is, the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told, and this is Times Magazine, this is as mainstream as it gets. Even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cable of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies working together behind the scenes to influence perception, change rules and laws, and steer media coverage and control the flow of information. So this is like multiple industries, multiple companies, and people with power working together to specifically manipulate public perception.
Does it explain how? Was it like a PAC or something? Does it explain how? Was it like a super PAC or something?
They kind of talk about it in the basically it's a lot of, it was essentially a lot of I don't really know like exactly where they met and stuff, but they were essentially it was like a lot of the people within the government, and then people like social media, like Mark Zuckerberg and the CEO of Google, and a lot of these organizations basically collectively working together to not basically
prevent
what it
Trump
sounds
from
like
winning.
is to prevent Trump from winning, essentially.
But that's essentially what super PACs are. Isn't that like?
Yeah, but for me, I think like this gets into where it sounds, the way they talk about it in the article is that, you know, that they were protecting our democracy.
It sounds like Illuminati
to me,
shit.
This sounds like, yeah, and it doesn't really sound like they're allowing these sorry, I'm like trying to like form like what I'm trying to say.
Whatever.
But like it doesn't really sound like these are private organizations that are using their freedom to decide what they want said and not said on their platform. It sounds like there's a coordinated effort by multiple industries and multiple people within different political parties and just everything, different political parties, different companies, and different people of power just trying to utilize their power to manipulate the way that people think. And it does, like, if one company, if Facebook was like, I don't want you to talk about this on my platform, but like when each person, like for instance, the Highwire, Del Bigtree, Last American Vagabond, or like independent journalists that have talked about you know, the linked studies from the CDC talking about masks being ineffective with viral transmission, they're being completely censored and removed from all of their platforms when each platform is using the same narrative. Like if one of the platforms was using this, oh, you know, we don't want you to say this on our platform, that makes sense. But when Twitter's doing it, Google's doing it, Instagram's doing it, Snapchat's doing it, and they're all working together, it seems more coordinated. It seems like they have people in their ears telling them.
I mean, so
what to do.
I think a lot of that. Well, first of all, there were a fuckload of lawsuits facing a lot of these platforms for allowing violence to happen without facing consequences. There was a lot of like they have these like strict rules. You're not allowed to post like super violence. You're not allowed to post like porn. You're not allowed to post like there were like there are small people who are very much getting who like they lose access. They're getting banned for violating these things. But then there are big people who, because they have a huge audience or have like more outreach, that and they're able to get away with it. And a lot of companies have been. I'm not trying to defend like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. Fuck those guys. But
Yeah.
like when there are like huge lawsuits happening against these industries for propagating violence, propagating like false narratives that they are also actively like sending towards people who like gravitate towards stuff, who are like, you know, forming their own bubble and are getting filled with even more shit, where there are also clearly like Russian bots and like clear clear like digital attacks on free speech, on like proper discourse. If you're not dealing with that, it's very problematic, and especially when like the risk of like Trump winning again means that, you know, if the fucking if the Capitol riots, like if there were no consequences for that, if there are no consequences for like anything that he did, it makes sense, and it's in their also market interest. Like the economy was booming, but that was only like off of like the insanity constantly around Trump. They knew it was unsustainable. Everybody knew it was unsustainable. A lot of the Fortune 500 companies, they were artificially inflating the values of their stocks, and everybody knows that's why I think it would like kind of explain the multiple industries kind of collaborating on this. Everybody knows it's bad for business if he wins. So I think it's still less of like the shadowy cult thing. Yeah. I think that's my take on it.
No, I feel you, but like for me, I just feel like the reason that there was a Capitol riot was not because of a lack of censorship, or not because like they weren't allowing. Like for me, that's where I feel like this whole QAnon thing is totally like a straw man thing, where I would even argue, which I don't have any proof of this, but I would argue that is essentially government created or somehow propped up.
A QAnon like leader was supposed to be like an FBI mole.
Yes, I've heard
that shit was good.
Too.
That shit was real good.
And like, yeah, and that's where it's like I think that there's like they kind of take advantage, like they lay the conspiracy bait around for those people who like for me, I mean, a lot of people say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but for me, I feel like I look at the facts and I develop
every
my
conspiracy
own
theorist will say that.
I
Don't say that.
I'll tell you.
Every conspiracy theorist is gonna say that shit. Don't say that shit.
Yeah, I mean, and you can say what you want about it. I mean, I personally do believe that people in power do conspire, and I think that they conspire in ways that will try to help themselves. I think that they probably believe what they're doing is right. You know, like they probably believe they're helping the world. You know,
I don't know, dude. I think that whole generation's like, it's not about whether or not it's right or wrong. It's whether or not we can get by, and as long as they have money, they can get by.
Yeah, and I think like I just think that people should be able to say whatever they want, like on the internet. Like I don't think that, like obviously I do think like there's like within reason. I mean, if you say go kill this person, like obviously I don't think those things should be allowed to be said. But I mean, if you're providing, you know, randomized controlled trials to prove that, you know, your blood sugar management works better, if not just as well as wearing a mask and washing your hands, according to this study and this study and this study, I don't think that's misinformation that's going against the World Health Organization. Therefore, you should lose your platform, or it's dangerous misinformation and things like that, where I think they're really trying to. It's the same thing with the vaccine argument, where, you know, there have been, because the Emergency Use Authorization Act allows them to use the vaccine without it being FDA approved yet, because it takes a couple years. But it is only allowed if there is no other treatment options available. If there are treatment options available, like remdesivir or potentially hydroxychloroquine or whatever, and I'm not even advocating for anything like that, but maybe you like getting your health, like getting vitamin D, maybe managing your blood sugar, doing things like that. If there are other ways that they can potentially help people that are sick, that will remove the need for an emergency use authorization, which will completely ruin the ability for them to roll out a
My
vaccine.
skepticism,
And that's where I feel like they don't want treatment. They want the vaccine. It's been since the beginning. They want the vaccine. And the mRNA vaccine is not even a vaccine, is gene modulation therapy, basically. It's like literally it doesn't work the same way as a vaccine, and we've never used this on humans ever before. So I think it's just very dangerous territory that we're walking in right now. I'm not saying it's bad.
I think my skepticism about whether or not it's like a deliberate, like it's deliberately intended to, like get their foot in the door essentially, or doing like whatever they want as far as like federal mandates on you need to get these passports, you need to get this vaccine, you need to do all these things. I feel like it's less that. I'm sure there's a degree of it, at least for some people, at least for pharmaceutical companies. But I also imagine that there is also just like the practical, because of how bad, like the extent that we've gotten, as opposed to like if we were able to like successfully flatten the curve, if we were successfully able to like deal with this. Like last year, there were 500,000 people dead. We weren't able to deal with it the way we should have, the way that like we had planned and like were prepared for it, but then it was just executed horribly. And even that is a very generous statement. So like the rush to get the vaccine out, one, yes, there is absolutely a monetary incentive to get that vaccine patented, to get that like out to as many people and sell it to people and sell it to countries, whatever. But I also feel like there is definitely, because of the situation that arose out of just people not doing what they needed to, eat healthy, stay healthy, don't go to work if you're sick, go to the doctor if you are sick. Like it very much also arose out of the dire straits that we've kind of gotten ourselves into because of like.
Do you think some of it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy, that there's like basically saying, oh, if everybody wore a mask, it would, we'd be doing better, but like there's totally no way to force everyone to wear a mask. Like there are going to be those people. I wear a mask at work. I wear a mask. And for the most part, I mean, as much as I provide evidence that I don't really agree with some of it, I mean, for the most part, I wear a mask because I'm not trying to get into confrontations with a bunch of people. I mean, now I got a face shield because I can actually breathe out of those and no one says anything about it. So
I think they look cooler,
but I mean,
too.
For the most part, yeah, right? No, yeah. And if you wear it upside down, you look like the Pope. Yeah, you got a big thing on your head. Yeah, like I think it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy that is designed to fail. Like and not that it's designed like like that there's people on top designing it to fail. Like I'm just saying, like if we tell everybody, oh, if you wear a mask,
I feel like that's more of a statement. I feel like then that's more of a statement about like just the American people, as opposed to like.
Yeah, well, most people don't want to listen. Like most people, this is my thing though with the Capitol riots, which I don't think I'm not condoning it or anything, obviously, but I don't think that a lack of censorship or us allowing these people to discuss on the internet is why people storm the Capitol. I think people are tired of, as Bernie would say, of establishment politics. I think people are completely tired of.
That's why so many people joined the cult.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that, and then some people just get misguided by this whole Trump narrative that he's taking out the elites and just trust the plan, bro. But that's where it's kind of crazy because Trump was keeping people, like I think if Hillary would have won, a lot of these Trump supporters would have been they would have been fighting for a lot of the things. Like they would have been fighting a lot of this stuff that's going on during the COVID pandemic. They would have been fighting for the censorship and all that. But when Trump was in office, they were passive. Just trust the plan, dude. That's what everyone on QAnon was saying. Trust the plan, man. Like they're going to, and then it was March 4th this year, Trump was going to, use the military and they were going to take over again. And all that basically just keeps everybody from actually like getting involved. And I don't really know what the answer is. Like, I don't really know what we should do. But all I know is if we keep playing this two-party game of like voting a Democrat, Republican, the same things are going to get done. Pesticides are going to get sprayed on our food. People are still I'm seeing at work, people are still microwaving things in plastic containers, man. I'm like, what are you? Oh my God. Yeah, and I'm like, dude, I can't even believe, like, this is why cancer rates are through the roof. And maybe I'm just like this because I've been
Yeah.
sick before. Like, I've been bedridden. I know what it's like to lose my health. But I mean, dude, even before that, like, I just can't even
Hmm.
believe it. And for me, like, I also have a hard time. I guess I'm just that type of person where I don't, um, like, I respect authority, but I am against
Hmm.
authoritarianism. Like, I respect people's authority, but I do have a hard time believing like a government that has knowingly
Hmm.
lied. And then also everyone will say, well, you know what? I don't trust the government. I trust the science. Well, I mean, there's so much science that contradicts what's a lot of the narratives that we're hearing too. So, I mean, it just kind of depends on the science that you mean. Like what most people mean is listen to
Hmm.
scientists. They don't mean follow the science but for me, I think there's a lot of corrupt ties within pharmaceutical industries and the CDC and the World Health
Hmm.
Organization. So I think that they're very corrupt, and they're funded by pharma. But not to go on a tangent, but that's where everybody was talking about Donald Trump being, him removing our funding from the World
This
Health
is us.
Organization
This
was
is
so
us
good.
breaking away from the this bullshit organization that was.
Yeah, like at first glance, I was like, hey, I kind of
Hmm.
agree with this. The World Health Organization's like they're corrupt. But then you read into the article, you read into what he's doing, and really what he's doing is he's taking the funding from the World Health Organization and giving it to GAVI, which is the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, which is the third leading funder of the World Health Organization. So he's literally giving the money from taking it from the World Health Organization and giving it to people who are just gonna give it to the World Health
Hmm.
Organization. So it's like, and then the number two funder behind us, and then the third funder is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and then GAVI. So it's two private organizations, which that is almost
Yeah.
more dangerous than just having a government do it. Now we're having private industry funding them. So then that's where it gets to be dangerous territory where it's like, yeah, like, and then all the Trump supporters were, oh, like this is such a good thing that he's doing this.
Would you say you're optimistic about the future in these regards? Like
Personally,
because
yeah.
we like so much has been brought to our attention. We've like this has been like crisis upon crisis upon crisis, and because people are conscious, do you think people are going to be more actively like trying to fix things, or like do you all believe in like the direction of like, people are so sick and exhausted about stuff, they're going to recede even further into the holes that they've kind of dug, trying to get away from like the news and get away from the organizations and getting away from the corporations.
Well, like I like to stay optimistic because for me, this has really influenced me to um, start producing my own food. Like
Hmm.
I've realized how like
I really want to get
volatile
to this at some
or
point because like you,
fragile.
you post some like some dope like food stuff that you on Facebook.
Yeah, no, man, I'm
Do you
super
cook?
into, producing your own food and stuff because not to get
Yeah.
into conspiracy land again, but I think that we could potentially be on the verge of having
Yeah,
a
you
food
talk about this a
shortage.
lot
And
too.
there's a guy, Ice Age Farmer, who's been really documenting all of this, who's been looking not only into how the pandemic is, the lockdowns, I should say, is causing these food uh, like supply chains
Hmm.
to break, but also how what's called the grand solar minimum is also affecting that, which is basically a reduction in solar activity, which causes a lot of areas to get colder. So that was another thing is he's been talking about the grand solar minimum for at least 5 years now, saying that temperatures are going to be getting colder in places. And then when you start seeing snow in Texas, all you're seeing is everyone talking about climate change. But I what I believe is I believe that humans are polluting the environment. Um, I noticed I went away. You
Yeah,
can
I can
still hear
hear
me though,
you. I
right?
don't. What the fuck happened there? Oh wait, I see. Yeah,
Uh,
the
oh no, no
you
worries.
keep shrinking. Get back here.
But no worries. But basically, what I was gonna say is like I think that I think that when we talk about climate change, it kind of dumbs down the argument of pollution, where we should be really talking about what we're dumping into the ocean, air quality, and instead, like the mass extinction, things
Hmm.
like that. Like we should be like really talking about specifics. Like we should be talking about specific things that are happening, the soil quality, insect population going down, shit like that. But instead, we're focusing on the planet's getting hotter, bro. Like we should be, and where really the planet is always going to fluctuate with our climate. The climate will always fluctuate. But the problem is we should be focusing really on more of these specifics. That's just my opinion. I feel like climate change just kind of keeps people from really digging into what is specifically happening. And also a lot of the...
Wouldn't that be like dealing with the symptoms as opposed to the sickness?
Well, I don't think that the climate change...
You don't think that's like the larger...
changing is the root. I don't know if that's the root cause. I think the root cause is us dumping shit into the ocean.
That's very much a significant problem, part of it.
Exactly. And then I also think like the air quality, like us burning fossil fuels, I don't think is good for the air, but I think that like us just focusing on like, it's like when Bill Gates, I don't know if you read the article where they're going to spray stuff into the sky to block the sun to prevent the globe from getting hotter. Like that.
That's some Futurama like, shit really right there. That's getting the robots to fart to push the planet a little bit further from the sun.
Yeah, right. Like it's just, I think like most of the stuff that most of the solutions to these problems
temporary at most.
Yeah, and it's just more about controlling the resources and controlling our food supply. Like Bill Gates is now the #1 owner of farmland in maybe the world, but I know for sure the country. But they're also there's a lot of legislation going around that's like just really hurting local farmers. They want to start like basically GPS tracking heads of lettuce, man, like everything, being able so you can determine exactly where your lettuce was grew, what time of the year.
Would you have to inject it into the neck of the lettuce?
Yeah, right. I don't really know. Like I don't know how they're gonna do all this, but this is like legit stuff. I'll send you some. The guy's gonna be removed from YouTube any day. He's the Ice Age farmer, but he's been also like talking about all of this, and he's kind of collects a lot of data. And I've been downloading a lot of his videos and printing the articles because a lot of these guys like they provide. And this is where like I view myself as intelligent. I don't just go on YouTube and just like, oh, some random dude is saying this. Like I do the research for myself. I look into what they're saying, and then I decide for myself whether I believe in it or not. But really, his main message is start producing your own food. That's the biggest thing, is because at the end of the day, small farmers are getting choked out. Small businesses in general are getting choked out. And we can say it's from the pandemic, but really it's the lockdowns, man. Like we can say that 500,000 people died last year from the virus, but also teen suicide is doubled than what it was the previous years before the pandemic. So teen suicide rates are skyrocketing. And then also people die in car accidents at that rate. Like we're still not even scratching the surface of how many people die a year from heart disease. And I mean, it's not a virus that transmits.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, and that's where I think that is also playing a role in the virus. But there's another doctor, I don't know if you've heard about, where he's been coming out and saying that there's something called viral immune evasion, which essentially is what causes these viruses to mutate. I forgot his name. It's like Gary something. He works for the...
I did hear about like a New York specific version of the coronavirus that like mutated. I don't remember if it was like specifically in hospitals or some nursing homes.
So this dude, I'm going to send you the link also. So basically he's writing a letter to the World Health Organization saying that they should stop not all vaccines, but he's talking about the mRNA vaccine in particular and how it is basically going to cause these viruses to, just because basically what he's saying is it's not like it's not ready, like it's not at the
it's going to be
where
it's going to be effective to where the disease isn't going to be able to like respond back and like evolve. And
yes, like it's not at the point where it essentially made a comparison to antibiotic resistant bacteria and pesticide resistant pests, and that how after a while I really wish I could screen.
Don't worry, I think I can like link to them in the video afterwards. I gotta find timestamp. I gotta do timestamps for this shit.
just do all, yeah, and even if you do like just in order, like I'm sending them to you because we're gonna talk about it and it'll all be there. So I'm gonna send you another one, and this is the actual document. So this is not like an article. This is his actual documentation, and it's basically him. It's very like it's very technical. Like some of it.
It's an academic paper.
Yes, exactly. And basically what he's essentially saying is that it's something called viral immune escape, but you can't find, like if you just Google viral immune evasion, that's also what it's called, and that will actually pull up something on Google. Viral immune evasion. So it actually like will pop up, it'll give you a little like thumbnail of kind of what it is. Viral mechanisms of immune evasion. Basically viruses have co-evolved with their hosts and therefore have limited pathology for it basically like they figure out ways to get around your immune system. They figure out ways to, and that's how they mutate and they become stronger. And that's basically his argument, is that us vaccinating with a vaccine that is not ready or hasn't been thoroughly studied is going to cause it to mutate.
Well, I think that's also partly why like we're going through another, at least so in Ukraine they're going through another lockdown because there's going to be a third spike that's expected. And the question is, are people actually going to do anything to prevent that, like the spread of it? Because the spread of it also like gives way more chances for it to mutate and makes it even more difficult to like create proper vaccines for. So like, yeah, maybe I can't honestly speak to the science. I don't know that shit either. But like, you know, it's hard to like in real time create the vaccine for a disease that people are actively, because they're not doing what they need to, like making it worse.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel? Do you think that we're ever going to get back to normal? Do you think that this is do you think it's just going to perpetuate and just continue like this, the war on terror? It's just now we're in the war on bioterror. It's never going anywhere.
We're gonna get them viruses.
Yeah, basically is how, that's
dude.
Literally how I feel, and I feel like
that's the American wet dream, where we wage a war on terror on a fucking pandemic on our own soil.
Yeah, and they got the war.
The war pharmaceutical.
The war on drugs was a fail. The war on drugs was a fail. The war on terror created more terrorism, and now we're in the war on bioterror. So I mean, I just like.
You know what's funny?
I'm optimistic because I do believe that at the end, good will prevail. I don't think Americans are just going to roll over and allow like a technocratic society basically get rolled out in front of us.
So
I don't know.
That's part of what I kind of wanted to get to, into like being optimistic about the future, because there are alternatives to a lot of like legacy systems that are being rolled out. So like, do you follow any like crypto shit?
A little bit. I mean, I invested in Doge.
Nice.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, I haven't really made shit. So my brother invested in Bitcoin a couple years ago, so he's been. If
you still got some Doge, have you already sold it? You should sell it. It's, right now we're at a high. Yeah.
Really?
Damn. But like, there are new systems that are the objective is decentralization, getting the power away from single industries, getting it away from governments, and making it like something that is going to be like everything is like crowdsourced, everything is crowdfunded, everything is voted on by the holders of currency, of voting tokens. Like you're imagine like Google, Facebook, they're not able to get access to your they're not able to sell and collect your data. If you're able to, you can monetize functionally your own identity as you like travel across websites. Like you know how like cookies collect data, you're able to like collect all of your own shit, and then you can withhold it, or you can choose to like monetize it and you can sell that shit. Same thing with like medical records. You'd be able to like get your own DNA code like recorded, and then you can send it to researchers, you can send it to whatever.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's potentially very much like a solution to both like government inefficiency and also like pharmaceutical uh like monopoly of like everything
Yeah.
of medicine and our health.
Well, and also having like quality food, like having a decentralized food system, I think is also really powerful because
There are
it
food tracking
leads
systems that have
like
already been implemented. Look
yeah,
into
like
blockchain.
having it basically having your own garden, having dude, I would love to have a chicken coop. Lombard won't let me have a chicken coop.
Bastards.
So that kind of pisses me off. But I got all of the supplies because when the pandemic was like first happening, everybody's out like buying, pasta and all this junk. And I'm over here like I'm building a chicken coop and like getting a garden ready. I'm like, dude, the shelves are empty at the store, and I'm like, you guys are all just gonna y'all gonna come to me because I bought so many seeds. I still have seeds that I've been sitting on like just and not to mention like the health, man. Like it's just so much healthier. Like we have pesticides legal in our country that are illegal in China. And like that alone says like something like and the
Oh, yeah,
dude
absolutely.
that
Like also one of
I
like the
forgot
worst
his name.
polluters, just the meat industry.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too, is like where they kind of that's the problem with what a lot of vegans do is they use the factory farming uh practices as a straw man for how bad meat
Mm-hmm.
is. When have you ever heard of regenerative agriculture?
I'm not sure. You have to explain it to me.
So like regenerative grazing basically is using grass-fed animals in a way that like how buffalo, before
They would shit in
industrialization, they would
places and they
migrate
would
across
like
the plain.
it would fertilize stuff and like they would move over to like next fields and
Exactly.
whatever.
So there's a farm that I go to that's called All Grass Farms in Barrington. They use regenerative practices, and it's actually I don't know if it would be it sequesters carbon. I don't know if that's carbon negative or positive. I don't know
Yeah, I
the
don't know.
term, but it makes it so instead of releasing carbon into the atmosphere like factory farming does, this sequesters carbon into the soil, and it actually
Mm-hmm.
makes for fertile soil. So basically the cows urinating and pooping basically, and their hooves are digging it
Jerking
into the
off into
ground,
it.
and they move them across the farm. Yeah, so they take a section of the farm, and then the cows will graze right there, and then they leave that area to grow.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy named Allan Savory that's reversed some ridiculous amount of um, like land. He's reversed desertification
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of areas of Africa using regenerative grazing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's here. Let me.
Yeah. Fun
I'm gonna
fact,
send this to
not to distract from that. Like George, George Washington Carver, the dude who like he's famous for like making 100 and something ways, or it's either 100 or like 1,000 ways to use peanuts. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a black dude in the States. Like his the bigger thing is like he kind of saved the South because the soil was so exhausted from all of like the cotton farming and like all the plantations and shit. Like planting peanuts like reintroduced a lot of the nutrients that were being depleted because of just like recurring.
Oh yeah.
So he functionally saved like most of the farmland in the South, but he's known for peanuts.
That's funny.
It's also because he's a black guy and he's
Um.
racist.
Yeah. Yeah. My bad. Hold on.
Mhm.
I want to show you like a picture. Here's a before and after. Can I send pictures through the?
You can send whatever you want to me. I still need to. So right now I'm on like a shit computer. It's a potato. I'm eventually hoping to upgrade. I've already started ordering parts, but hopefully I'll be able to like figure out a smarter way to just like if there's something that needs to be up, just like right there, right in the screen.
So I'm gonna try to screen share again and see
Okay.
if the chat will pop up. So because I sent it to the chat, so I'm gonna try it one more time. Screen share. Is it there?
No, it's still.
Oh, this is what's messing me up. That's why it's messing me up is when I do screen share. You can't see it?
No, it's still just your desktop.
Oh,
I don't know what's up with that. I
weird.
think it might need to be like. Hmm, I gotta resize your window.
Yeah, my bad.
That's
That was
fine.
my fault. Um, So basically, it's just pictures where you could even include it in the show notes or in the links or whatever. But it shows a before and after. I sent it. You could even probably see it in the chat right now, where he's taken one area that literally has no grass, and he just put cows and
And
ruminant
he
animals,
shits right
and
there.
they literally create grassland, dude. And it's absolutely like, and that's where I think this is how we feed the world.
Reforestation.
Like Allan Savory is more so, instead of, like, I think what Bill Gates is doing to feed the third world serves a purpose because it gives them food right now. I did an episode about this in my podcast like last year, but like he did.
You did a podcast? I should
It's
be on
really
that
important
podcast.
because he's giving them food right now.
You did a
What?
podcast? I should be on that podcast.
Yeah, right. No, you could come onto my channel one of these days for sure. But so he did a story, or he's feeding people right now. You know what I'm saying? Like where he's given, I mean, it's rice and beans. It's not like the most nutritious food, and they fortify it with vitamin A to give people, vitamin A and stuff. But what Allan Savory is doing is he's going to areas of Africa and teaching them how to produce their own food and using ruminant animals to reverse desertification, create fertile soils, and then they can eat the meat that they produce. So instead of giving a man a fish, you teach him how to fish.
It sounds more like he's like he's growing the trees so that and then teaching them how to whittle fishing rods, and then also having them learn how to fish.
Exactly. Like he's teaching them from the ground up, man. Like and I think that
this is fish.
Yeah, right. And I think that is the way that we feed the world, essentially. First, I don't think that every human is meant to really focus on, like, how are we going to feed the world? They're like, oh, can supporting local farms really feed the whole world? And I'm like, well, maybe I'm not meant to worry about feeding the whole world. Maybe I should just focus on feeding myself and my family. And, like, I think we have this weird, I don't know if it's capitalism or what it is, but, like, that drives us all to, like, well, like, we need to do it for the whole world now. Like everybody needs to do this, where it's like, I don't know if it's like that simple. That I think we should, or I don't know if it's that complex, I should say, but I think us supporting local farms is way better for the environment with regenerative agriculture than factory farming. Kind of to tie it all back.
I think almost everything like that is an alternative to factory farming is better than factory farming.
Yeah, and I mean the health of the meat is better.
Literally eating children would probably be better than fucking factory farming.
Yeah, right. Dude, at this point, like having a cow that's eating genetically modified corn and soy that's been sprayed with pesticides and pumped with antibiotics.
GMOs are fine. Antibiotics for them are bad. But I think the larger issue is like the amount of food that you need to be giving them, the amount of resources that you need to dedicate to factory farming is just horrible.
Yeah. Whereas with regenerative grazing, it actually is like beneficial for the environment. So in a sense, for me, I don't think you can really save the environment without regenerative grazing.
It's definitely part of the solution. I would agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Allan Savory would argue. But then that's the
like
issue with this whole like clean meat, lab grown meat, and all this stuff that Bill Gates is invested in, all of the quote unquote vegan agenda of like them trying to remove animal agriculture. I think it was the CEO for Impossible Foods or something like that. Might be that, or those like one of the lab grown meats, or the Impossible Burger or whatever. He was one of his quotes is that we're gonna make animal agriculture, or we're gonna remove animal agriculture completely by like 2025 or 2030 or something. Like that was their goal, is to get rid of animal agriculture. And I think like that's just the wrong move. Like personally, I believe that like animal products are like 100% essential for human health. I think it's healthy to eat animals. Like people have been doing that forever.
I would disagree with that though.
Dawn of man.
I would disagree that like that animal products are absolutely necessary. We're able to like synthesize like fucking every vitamin. We're able to just like take supplements for shit. Like I would say don't make animals go extinct because we don't need to eat them anymore. Like and for grazing purposes and for like reintroducing nutrients to depleted soil, I feel like that's absolutely valuable. But
Do you think that a vitamin is synthesized or like utilized by the body the same way as getting it from a food source?
I would say
because there's
I
different
would
types.
definitely say that there are differences. But like, see, I think this is the point of like developing the technologies to be able to get it better. Like, I am not 100% not against like synthetic food or synthetic meats, especially as an alternative to like slaughtering a bunch of animals. Especially if it can feed people, if it can give them the nutrients that they need to survive and stay healthy. 100% for it. Like, there's no reason.
Sounds like we're just industrializing ourselves out of a problem that we don't need to industrialize ourselves. Like, it's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
It's
like,
pretty broken right now.
People have been doing this.
It's pretty broken.
But that's factory farming. That's the straw man, not regenerative grazing practices in local farms. Those practices are healthy. Like, there's so many. And the only reason I've become passionate about this is I was vegetarian for a little bit, and I was pretty freaking close to veganism, and I think that negatively affected my health. Where I've learned the importance of animal foods. There's B12, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K2, creatine, carnitine, choline, biotin.
All things you're able to synthesize, though.
Acids that are,
like all things that you're able to synthesize, though. The issue is how economically feasible is it to like synthesize all those things as an alternative to raising animals and then just like eat them.
And that's where, but then you would also have to consume all of those with their
and have like
within their context of nature. Like, for instance, like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K2, all you can find in one egg, and they come with saturated fat and cholesterol, which are needed to absorb those vitamins because they're fat soluble vitamins. So you can't just take vitamin A as a supplement that's synthetically created, because there's also a debate on whether your body will recognize it the same way when it's consumed outside of its context in nature. Where that's where like you see vegan supplement with B12, and some of them still have.
But this is what I'm saying, because
symptoms of B12.
The objective is to eventually get to the point where we're able to do that. I'm not saying we're able to do that now, but it's part of the reason why I like support the research going towards it. So to like have to get away from it, like eating animal products. So I am not a vegetarian. I am not a vegan. I eat factory farmed meat because it's like really my only like choice here. Like, if I had to choose my option for like eating meat, it'd probably be hunting, because like the animal lives a full life. You actually hunt it down.
Yes.
Like
and it's healthy. It's living in its normal context.
Yeah, and you get like enough meat for like months. If you hunt like a buck, or if you hunt like a deer or something, you get food for like a year. One animal dies, and like you get jerky for days.
Yeah.
But like in synthesizing a bunch of foods, like it's also part of it. It's not just the vitamins, like you said. It's about like the method of like receiving it. It's about being able to properly digest it and like get the caloric intake that you need in order to function for a day.
Yeah. And there's another thing too with plant production. Unless you are consuming everything local and organic, the amount of gophers and rabbits and crickets and insects and bees that are all killed with modern agriculture production is also like extraordinary. So like the amount of pesticides they use kills millions, and I'm saying millions, of bugs and insects. And then when they use those giant like things to like what is it, like to grab the corn, basically to harvest all the corn, and they do it in mass scale, those
things are
tractors.
spooky. Those things are scary as shit.
You ever seen those videos of, well, I don't know if you've seen them, but like there's little videos of like rabbits like running away from them. Like they grind up everything in there. Like there's rabbits that have homes. There's like, so I mean, for me, I'm thinking like going full blown vegan, you're killing just as many animals, if not arguably more. The only thing is it's not an animal you can see. And the argument would be,
I had sorry to interrupt. I had this like bullshit argument with this one chick in college. She was like, I'm a vegetarian. I'm like, yeah, but do you ever think about the lives of like the corn that you're eating? Like,
yeah, right.
Sorry to distract.
No, you're good. Like, And I think like and then there's also the omega-3s. Like there's that's also another. So this is
It's
another
found in a lot of
interesting point
mostly
is
fish, right?
So this is another interesting point is that so you're allowed to list, like if you look at carrots has it says vitamin A. It has like 200% of your vitamin A, some ridiculous amount. Okay, whatever. It's like, okay, but actually what's the form of vitamin A that's in carrots is actually called beta carotene, which needs to be converted in the body into retinol, which retinol is vitamin A. And retinol is only found in animal foods, which is only found in its preformed bioavailable form in animal foods, in eggs, liver, milk, and like some fish and shellfish and stuff like that. But some people, especially in Europe, they have genetic like polymorphisms which inhibit the ability to even produce vitamin A from beta carotene. There's like there was a study that like 50% of people in the UK, women in particular, lacked the gene
to digest
or
like
the enzyme to be able to assimilate it, to basically be able to convert and then and if you only do 10%, then the vegan argument would be, oh well, then you just eat 4 of them. And it's like, well, actually the conversion rate goes down the more that you eat. So same with omega-3s from flax seeds or from chia seeds. They'll say, oh, you get 10%. Well, then just eat a cup of it. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be able to shit for a week if I eat that many flax seeds. Like, or you're never gonna stop.
Or you're gonna grow a full flax plant out of your asshole.
Literally, bro. Like, and it's like, so some people also like lack the ability to be able to do that. And that's where, like, for me, there's a book written by Weston A. Price. It's called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. It was written in the 1920s or something like that. And it was a dentist that traveled around the world and visited indigenous tribes. And he visited these indigenous tribes before they actually started making contact with the modern world. Like a lot of these tribes, they're all eating shit now. Like they're all drinking Coca-Cola, so you can't study them. So this was like a really good study before all of these tribes were like basically before they started contacting. Yes, exactly. So basically what he found, and I believe he was a vegetarian himself, but one of his biggest things that he was trying to find was a tribe that subsisted off plant foods. And he did not find one. He went through the entire world, man. The Inuits, the Eskimos, the Australian Aborigines.
I think
South America.
Inuit is the proper term for Eskimos.
Okay, yeah. So let's say, yeah, exactly. He went to the north. He's the Lachental Valley or something in Switzerland. He went through a lot of areas. I think he might have even seen the Hadza, regardless, I can't remember all of them. But yeah, he saw a bunch of indigenous tribes, the Maasai, that was another big one that he saw. And every single, they all ate some amount of plant foods, I think, except for the Eskimos. They didn't really eat many plant foods because it's Alaska. They don't really
unless
have a lot
snow
of
is a vegetable, it doesn't fucking count.
Yeah, right. I believe actually what's kind of nasty, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that they would eat the fermented plants out of the freaking intestines of seals. I don't know if this is all true, but it's disgusting. But
I don't know, don't knock it till you try it.
But they all ate some amount of animal foods. Like they all ate plants for the most part too, but they all ate animal foods and they prized animal foods. Like they made, what he found was that like there was no way for them to get enough calories in the natural context. Like you basically, if you lived in Peru, it's gonna take you more calories to go get that, like the bunch of bananas off the top of that tree than you're actually gonna get by eating all the bananas. You're gonna expend more calories trying to get all of your food and try to harvest all of your food than you're gonna get by just eating, like hunting, like you're saying, like hunting your deer and then eating it. Like there's so much more calories and less food with the animal products.
I think that also kind of depends on the so imagine for a lot of those places there was also like kind of the context of like warring tribes or whatever, because like my counterpoint would be like Buddhists in like a lot of Eastern Asia who are vegetarians, historically.
Mm-hmm.
But like they're in like societies where not necessarily everybody was being conscripted to. No, not everybody was like obligated to be some sort of warrior or some shit like that. So because of like the societal infrastructure around them, they were able to just kind of survive off of like vegetables. But in like a lot of these tribes, I imagine you would need the like the caloric value from animal products more than you would get from like foraging and shit.
And also, the tribes that are vegetarian in India and most of those places eat a bunch of eggs and butter. They use an ass ton of dairy and eggs. And typically, I don't think they have the greatest health outcomes. I don't think. I think Hong Kong, which correlation isn't always causation, but Hong Kong has the highest consumption of animal foods per capita or meat. It's like over a pound per person a day, and they have the most longevity, like the highest, like they compared to all the other like big cities and shit. And like the pretty low ones are a lot of the vegetarian
California.
tribes. I'm not tribes. Yeah.
I'm from tribe California.
But yeah, man, I've pretty much I've been I've become like very passionate about like
nutrition,
eating healthy and nutrition. I honestly I think that's what I would like to do. Eventually, I'm going to go back to school for either becoming a dietitian or physical therapy, help people, that have gone through injuries and just kind of help people, recover from traumatic injuries like physical ailments and stuff. And I would like to incorporate diet into that. So maybe I would do both. But yeah, I would like to open up a holistic healing practice one day.
Nice. That's very noble.
That's kind of my goal.
Yeah, that's very noble.
What? Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Do you plan on?
I mean,
sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, I was just kind of saying, like I've been through it, like I feel like I've been through hell and back, man. So I've become passionate about it. Almost to a point where I think I might have been a little too obsessive about it before. Kind of relaxed ever since I started working, not spending so much time just researching nutrition and all that stuff.
So how would you say your like health has gotten like better since? So I don't remember what you were diagnosed with.
Yeah, I have a couple. So I tore my rotator cuff. I got diagnosed with thoracic outlet syndrome, which is like
spinal thing.
Basically, the nerves in your neck like get lodged, basically kind of like pinched within your armpit as they come out, and I was having like buzzing down my arm, and like my arm would start to like turn blue and shit. Like it was it got like really weak, and then I got really depressed, man. I was like having like some symptoms, like digestive symptoms of like colitis, like ulcerative colitis and stuff. I was having like very serious
so would you say that your health like essentially kind of gotten back like to before that then?
Oh, dude, so much better.
How much do you weigh? How much do you weigh now?
Maybe about 130. I've gained 30 pounds, man. At my worst, 6 feet tall, 100 pounds.
Yeah.
I was emaciated.
I must say.
I must say. Bad.
Like the first time I saw you, like after like middle school or whatever, I think I was hanging out with like Will, and you came over and you were fucking taller than me. That made me so mad.
Really? Yeah, no, dude, that's kind of funny. I was thinking about that too, even with Colin. I'm taller than Colin now, and I remember him always being the tallest one. It's funny. I don't know if I told you. I live with Henry.
You live with Henry? Oh, nice.
Henry lives dude, at my house.
Whenever we do your podcast, have Henry over. I'd love to talk with him too.
Yeah, no, man, it's been nice. Like, I mean, he's moving out soon. Because I'm moving out too. So, my mom's gonna be trying to get her own place soon. My battery's gonna die on my computer, and I don't know where my charger is. So I don't have.
Yeah, we're at an hour 30. We're already like getting close to what would be considered the end.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, he's been staying at my place, and I mean, he's probably the one person I've like stayed in touch with throughout this whole time.
Yeah, Will's finishing his PhD in industrial organizational psychology.
That's insane to think. Like, I feel so old sometimes, man. I remember like us being at St. Matthew's, and
Can you remember the name of everybody in our class?
Probably.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like I know. I'm really bad with names. I've got like honestly some surprisingly bad short-term memory. I can remember everybody's names. I can remember all the teachers. I can remember like.
Bro, I can remember literally. I even remember the people who were not there very. You remember Sung
Oh yeah,
Hee?
no, Sung Hee Park. Oh yeah, she was awesome. And
Yeah,
do you remember like Cole?
remember Kirsten
Yeah.
Gakowski? I got her on
Oh nice.
Facebook. Yeah, like I remember like even the people who were
Honestly, I
not there
forgot
very
about
long.
Kirsten.
Like,
Yeah. There
yeah,
was like
man. Like
Sean in
I
first
I
grade.
remember
There was
everybody.
Sean in first grade. There was there was Charles.
Oh
Do
man,
you remember
remember
Rob?
that.
Do you remember
I've
Robbie?
seen Chantel at um Walmart. She came in. She recognized me with the
Oh
mask on,
wow.
dude. I had a mask and a
She's still
hat.
short.
I was like, what?
She's still
Huh?
short.
Not really.
Angelica's
She's
having
like,
her a kid.
I noticed that too. That makes me feel more old.
Nah, dude, we're
Everyone's
just
like
at the
married and
we're at
shit.
3 threes. Your birthday's in December, right?
I know, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're three cubed.
You're married. I'm married. She's having a baby. Is she married too, or is
I'm pretty
she
sure she's married.
fiance, or do you know? Like, yeah, it's and I believe Paula also does some sort
She
of
does
like
yeah.
chiropractor.
Yeah, she's a chiropractor.
Yeah, she's in a which is pretty like I mean, I'm not really into like the cracking and the
Mm.
manipulation of like our joints. Like I mean, I think it has its purpose, but I really do like the aspects of natural health and posture
Mm-hmm.
that chiropractors talk about. They talk about nutrition, they talk about
And yeah,
diet, like
you remember
so.
Dan? He's fucking ripped,
Hmm.
dude. Yeah,
No
he got in
way.
like the crazy good shape.
No way. Shout
Yeah,
out
man.
to him.
He's living in North Carolina now. He's been working at gyms for like the past like 6 years.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's cool to see like everybody's like lives like the way like it turned out and stuff. It really does
Remember when I was gonna be a
speak to
priest?
how fast life.
Remember when I
Say
was gonna
what?
be a priest?
Yeah, I do remember that. Well, man, I mean, I feel like I've done a 180, man. I used to kind of be religious, but I've gone from not really being religious at all to, I mean, I pray the rosary a decent amount now. I mean, when I started getting my health back, I was like, thank
Mm-hmm.
God, man. Like I've gotten to the point where I really do believe that there's like a purpose, a higher power. Like I don't think that everything
You got
just
a
kind of
cat?
happens for no reason.
Is that a
You say
cat?
what?
Or is that a door?
No, it was my brother. They tried to
Oh.
walk in the room, but hey, so I do got to wrap up in a little bit. But another interesting, we talked briefly like a while back when I talked to you, is there's this book called
Mm-hmm.
Nihilism,
I
and
feel like I've heard about it.
it's written by they're basically it's written by an Orthodox like Greek Orthodoxy, and he's a priest, Seraphin Rose or something like that. But it's a book about how essentially even if God does not exist, humans have this like this this
Yeah.
need, yeah, like a need to like envision a higher power, because eventually like basically this like hardcore atheism eventually leads to nihilism, which is the belief in like nothing, there's no purpose, everything's pointless, it doesn't matter, and
Fucking
therefore
nihilists.
humans could be God. Yeah, we're God, bro. Like where we can be God now, and we can control genetics and control evolution, and like basically he gets into how like most of the atrocities of the modern world from Hitler and Stalin were basically formed off of these ideas that humans can be God, or we can control genetics, there were superior genetics, we can control evolution, and that that's not to say that Christianity hasn't been guilty of doing similar things, with the Crusades and stuff. But I think that is more of an example of churchianity, as they would say, instead of
Mm-hmm.
Christianity. Like I think that people use it for political gain. That's not really God
Mm-hmm.
doing that. Like people will be like, oh well, God, why would God let bad things happen? Well, like God gives us free will, and I think that humans kind of do what they would, with it. It's just there's bad people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, I've gotten to the point where like but I don't really like this whole idea of, I mean, I don't really expect the church to acknowledge gay marriage,
They're taking
but it's
steps,
kind of
but
bogus
like
that
yeah, they're certainly not going. They're not anywhere close to actually like.
but they're gonna let the dude who was molesting children under Benedict back into being a cardinal. Like,
Yeah.
oh, whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not really too into like the organization, the organized religion, but I still do believe in God, and I choose to pray like use like Catholicism as my outlet, I guess you could say, just because it's what I've been taught. You know, I'm not Buddhist. I was never raised Buddhist. So I wouldn't really do that. But yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I just do it because it's my way. Like it's my medium.
Yeah, dude. I remember like back
here.
in the day, you were the one who was at. I remember you asking me at some point, like it was a gym class. You were asking me about like, oh, my uncle's gay. Is he a sinner? And I was like, technically, he's a sinner. Yeah. No, because I was the one who knew everything about the fucking Bible.
And you know what's weird? Is he's very religious. Not like very religious, but I mean he prays. He's like, you know.
I've known a couple like different gay Catholics.
Yeah, and he's very conservative too, which is another pretty bizarre, man. Like that's whoa.
Checking in all the boxes with your eyes closed.
Yeah, I mean it's like that sometimes though, man. I mean, my family is I got 10 aunts and uncles on my mom's side, and they're split down the middle. We got diehard Republicans and diehard Democrats, and then you got my mom who's like, I don't really care. Like my mom's not really political. Yeah, she's sometimes I just talk my shit, and she's just like, okay, Nick.
All right. So
yeah, I mean, it is.
Yeah, let's bring this to a close. Do you have anything that you really want to plug? So you got a new thing coming out next beginning of April.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, I mean, everybody can just follow me like on my little Twitter handle.
Same Instagram, right?
Yeah, same on Instagram and everything. I mean, you can follow me also on YouTube. It's just my name, Nick Demeria, and as Demeria. That's how you spell it.
Had to think on that, didn't you?
Yeah, just like follow me, check it out. I make music.
Had to think on that, didn't you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, make sure I say it correctly. No, but you can also like check me out on like my brother's YouTube channel. Everybody should check that out too. He did the Heavy Steppers video. So there's FreeFAM is where you can check us out. I mean, I'm on YouTube. I'm on SoundCloud and everything. So yeah, I try to stay busy. I try to release as much as I can. And I mean, I like the music I make. So follow me, and I'm going to get my podcast going. But I appreciate you having me on, man. It was
dude.
Good conversation.
Always fun talking with old friends again.
Yeah. It was good seeing you, man.
Yep.
Take it easy.